Welcome everybody to a look at a brand new 4K release from Arrow Video, and it is 2006's Poseidon. So this is directed by Wolfgang Peterson, who also did the likes of Das Boot, The Neverending Story, and In the Line of Fire, all three of which are really rather great films. So this is an action disaster film, clocking in at 98 minutes long, stars the likes of Josh Lucas, who was also in American Psycho, Ford versus Ferrari, and Session 9, as well as Kurt Russell, who I've seen in at least 23 other films. So he's easily the star of this film, as far as I'm concerned, who was in the likes of The Thing, Tombstone, Breakdown, and Death Proof. And we've also got Richard Dreyfuss in a decidedly not as good water-based effort, as he was also in the likes of Jaws, which we've recently talked about. So, yeah, a packed cruise ship traveling near the Atlantic is hit and overturned by a massive rogue wave, compelling the passengers to begin a dramatic fight for their lives. So, I am a massive fan of the 1972 original, The Poseidon Adventure, which this comfortably fails to match, let alone be better than. However, it is at least better than Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, which came out several years later. Um, but the reason why it's not as good as the original is that principally there is little here that is an actual improvement over the original. That said, I still find this to be enjoyable enough as far as these types of films go. That said, I do find this also to be more riveting, thanks in no small part due to the still superb looking special effects. ILM did a huge amount of work on this film, especially with the 2.5 minute flyover of the ship itself at the beginning, which apparently was one of the most complex single pieces of visual effects that they did at the time. The action scenes do feature more tension than before, and it does explore more of the ship while using its aspects in a way that isn't just the usual vents and swimming around. It is also well paced, the cast is decent, the score is good, and the capsized scene is just as much a feast for the eyes as it was upon release. Just a shame then that the characters aren't all that likable or well developed. Several are unlikable, all of them are not well developed. Particularly when it comes to Richard Nelson, played by Dreyfuss, as literally just before the rogue wave hits, he's contemplating killing himself because his partner he's having an affair with someone else, which he finds out before the voyage starts. And then consequently, when he's trying to get out of the ship with the others, he ends up killing someone else to save himself. So you think that there'd be some kind of character aspects to that could be built upon. Maybe he could be the one that makes the self-sacrifice of to get everyone else out of the ship, for instance, to make up for the fact that he's killed someone else or something like that. But no, it's completely glossed over. Even when we come across a character that knew the person that Dreyfuss's character killed, it's not talked about. So it's just completely, glosses over any kind of character depth or development or anything like that, which is a real shame. It also has several mean-spirited moments, not just when Dreyfuss's character kills the other guy, but also when it comes to another survivor who's really rather quite an arse, I guess you could say, towards another person. So yeah, there's those kind of elements. It's also way too corny in several scenes. The script is rather basic. Our lead character isn't anywhere near as great as Gene Hackman's Preacher in the original, and there are no attempts to save anyone that is eventually left behind. Gene Hackman goes to great lengths to try and save people that stay in the ballroom. No attempts are made whatsoever to save anyone really here on this one, and we also don't come across any other survivors outside of the characters that we introduced to at the start. So there's no, mass amounts of people trying to get to one end of the ship like there are in the original that Gene Hackman's character tries to save. So yeah, the it's just really feels rather selfish and self-centered in the way that the characters behave in this kind of situation, and yeah, that just really is a bit of a bad taste in your mouth. But there are, like I said, plenty of positives, and it is quite a lot of eye candy when it comes to the action scenes and the capsize scene and such and such. And but yeah, it's nowhere near as memorable as the original, and yeah, neither is it as good. So it's a 3 out of 5. I give the original 4.5 out of 5. It's easily one of the best of its type, but this still gets a solid 3 out of 5, which, like I said, is at least better than the sequel Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. So yeah, it does have that going for it. So there's the disc, only the 4K disc with this release, no Blu-ray. And yeah, we get a booklet with this release as well. And inside we have your cast and your crew, and then we have Happy Goddamn New Year, The Hostile Universe of Poseidon by Priscilla Page, and then about the presentation, as well as shots from the film throughout as well. So, yeah, one thing I can respect about this film is the fact that it still uses a lot of practical effects, practical sets, and such. So, for all of the CGI in this, in fact, the Cat's Eye scene, I believe, had the most amount of CGI aspects or objects or something or other going on it in one whole scene, because obviously there's a lot of lifeboats, lights, deck chairs going around, people being thrown about, and such and such. So it's respectable in that effort, but it's also respectable that there's a lot of practical elements to it. The ballroom scene, for instance, when the glass on the windows finally breaks because it's sunk far too low underwater, is all practical for the most part, outside of the some of the CGI elements to the latter part of that scene. But the initial scene of the water splashing through the windows and hitting the ballroom lights and such is practical, and it does look really, really good. Um, but I will say that the sets themselves, even though they are obviously upside down, don't look as, you know, imaginative as the upside down sets that are in the original. You know, you have in that film, you have a lot of upside down barber chairs, for instance, and then you can see the stairs that are upside down, so like a ramp more than a bunch of series of steps. So yeah, it's just not quite as memorable, unfortunately. Then we have a cut in half image there with the Cat's Eye scene on the top and a scene with Josh Lucas on the bottom. I would have liked to have seen this in IMAX when it originally came out. So yeah, Poseidon has been restored by Arrow Films and is presented in its original aspect ratio of 2:39:1 with 5.1 audio, and it's presented in 4K resolution in HDR10 and Dolby Vision. And the original 2K DI files were restored in 4K resolution and color graded at Duplictech. All materials sourced for this new master were made available by Warner Brothers, and quality control review was completed by Pixel Logic, and restoration was supervised by James Percy and James White at Arrow Films. So yeah, they have done a fair decent amount of work to this, and it does look really rather good. I have no issues at all with this, the image quality, and the sound is really good as well, because like I said, the action and the spectacle and such are easily the highlight of this film, and they're only made all the better because of the new sound that is going on here as well. So yeah, all very good. We also have newly commissioned artwork by JC. So this is the new artwork that is also on the case. But we also have the original artwork on the reverse, which I actually prefer, to be honest. I really like it because it gets across the basic of the film, is the fact that there you are, you've got a cruise ship upside down. That's all it needs to say, really. You don't need to know how that happened. You just need to know that it is in that manner, and how the hell are you going to get out of it, basically. And on the disc itself, in terms of special features and extras, we've got optional English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing. Then we've got Ocean View, a brand new interview with director of photography John Seal. Big sets for big time directors, a brand new interview with production designer William Sandel. Then Surfing the VFX Wave, a brand new interview with visual effects supervisor Boyd Shermas. Bringing Out the Dead, a brand new interview with makeup effects on-set supervisor Michael Deek. Set a Course for Adventure, a brand new retrospective on the film by Heath Holland. Then we've got Poseidon, a ship on a soundstage. A featurette looking at the film's production featuring interviews with cast and crew. Poseidon, Upside Down, a featurette exploring the film's challenging set design. We've got a Shipmate's Diary, a featurette following production assistant Malona Voigt on the set of Poseidon. And then we've got the artwork and the booklet that I've shown you already. So, yeah, overall a decent film, but not a spectacular one. Certainly nowhere near as memorable as the original, and certainly nowhere near as trend-setting or as successful as the original as well, because this, unfortunately, was a box office bomb. Cost 160 million to make, only made about 181 million worldwide. So not a success, to be honest, which was unlike the original, which cost only several million and made more than 100 million. So yeah, that was a massive success, and also helped cement the disaster genre as a dominant force in the 70s, whereas this certainly did not restart the disaster genre itself, which unfortunately was a bit on its legs at the time, because you also had the Core, which came out a few years before this, which was even worse than this. And then it took until at least the mid 2010s until we started to get some slightly better efforts in that genre, like The Wave, and I really rather like San Andreas. So yeah, films like that, but still decent enough effort, well worth watching, and the 4K certainly makes it a look and sound a lot better. So yeah, it has all that going for it. But nonetheless, thank you for watching. If you have seen this film before, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.